All right, I've got a good one here. Dear Mattsons, my 10-year-old is starting to ask questions about sex.
Okay.
When is the appropriate time to start this discussion, and how much is too much information? Sincerely, not ready for this. Well, just want to say, I guess to start out, but just validating the fact that, it just seems like we're having to have these conversations way earlier. Tara and I, we teach about this, and yet it was still like, this was hard to address that tension inside of us. How much is too much and how too early? Mm-hmm. The bottom line is that we really felt convicted that, you know what, we're not going to leave it up to some stranger or people we don't know or trust to be the ones to teach our kids, our most precious resource, about these things. So we started earlier than we ever even wanted. But you know what? It's actually really paid off as our kids are teenagers now in that zone. Normalizing things earlier gave us a chance to kind of fumble around and be kind of goofy and laugh. And, you know, the big picture is that sex is God's design, God's gift. And so as we began to integrate that in our conversations with our kids and let them ask questions, they began to just see that was something that wasn't off the table, and it wasn't something that we had to be embarrassed about all the time or just shut down, or it opened things up. And so now as teenagers, it's pretty open, but it's also kind of funny, right? Because we joke and there's like, oh, too much information, gross, you know.
We hear TMI all the time from our youngest. Yeah, and the idea is just like anything else that we're trying to teach our kids, it's in the day of life. Yeah. And so recognizing that sexuality is broader than just the act of intercourse. Part of God's design is, again, understanding the ways our bodies are made, feeling comfortable in being female and male. What is the greater picture and the design of how babies are made? All those things are a part of it, but it's meant to be an ongoing dialogue, and it takes the shame out of the conversation. It also gives trust. It builds trust and safety with our kids. So when they're younger, at 3, 4, we're talking about their bodies and the uniqueness about how they're designed, and they're noticing, you know, mommy and daddy have different parts. That's normal to be talking about that, talking about who gets to touch, who doesn't, good touch, bad touch, and talking about prevention for harm. And then around 3rd, 4th grade, we're really giving them the overt design. We're sticking with anatomy. We're talking about the overt language and trying to clarify some of the nicknames that we have in our culture. Because really, it's not really when are they going to see something. You know, kindergarten, lunch table, they're talking about things all across, you know, running into things on their phone. So being able to come to us and say, let's talk about it, and you can trust us with the information. All the way through when they move into preteens and teens, we're talking more about regulation. How do we actually regulate our sexuality like we regulate our appetites and all the other things that we have to teach and train? So there's this process that happens, and a lot of us parents are just ill-equipped. So we're going to say, hey, if this is uncomfortable for you, get equipped, read books, listen to podcasts. We've got several on the Living Wholehearted podcast to help resource you as parents. But this is a topic to be, you know, even talked about at the dinner table. When you've got your 10-year-old, your 13-year-old, and your 15-year-old all sitting together, we're, again, talking about the design and then making it fun, you know, as if you're husband and wife, to be able to engage one another and to flirt and to be able to talk about the joy. And if that's not the case for you, then we would encourage you to get some help and resources, again, to help you in your own marriage.
Yeah, so the earlier the better, in a sense of you as parents being able to discuss this with your kids and really celebrating the fact that it's God's design and God's gift, and it's a beautiful thing. There's fun that you can have, and humor and awkwardness, and if you normalize those kinds of things, then you're setting your kids up for a healthy understanding and even expectations about that, right? And that's really important for their journey in the long haul too. So it's really cool that your 10-year-old is asking you about these things. That's actually pretty awesome, rather than hiding or trying to ask they're outside of the home. What a privilege to be able to lead them in that space and just join them in that journey. And you'll be happy that you did that, as opposed to just letting somebody else take the reins and be the expert.
Yeah. So if you have another question, and you know, a common one, a not so common one, feel free to write those in the suggestions below, submit them. There's not a question off the table to submit. And really, you are the right parent for the job. And so we're here cheering you on.